So how you guys doing? It's the end of the year of 2025. We're 10 days into January, and I thought I would go over last year's numbers, how much I made cents per mile, how much I grossed net, and how much it cost me to operate. The biggest thing is how much it cost me to operate. So without blabbing too much, let's get right into it. This little top box right here is my yearly earnings. I did $502,000. I netted to myself, bring home, 61,540. My total miles, I did 85,681. My truck earned every mile $2.38. And that's calculated by taking the last odometer from the finish of the last load I did in 2025 and subtracting it all the way back from the ending odometer of 2024. The 72 cents per mile is how much I netted, and then my cost of operation was $1.66. This number right here, that 61,540, that comes from my accounting program. Let me jump over here to that. So my fuel at the top was $48,000, then my truck payment, then my insurance, then my maintenance on the trailer was $7,500. Then I had maintenance on my big truck was right at $7,000 for the month. Then tires for the tractor was $5,900, and that's really the first bed of tires. Each year I've gone through a few sets of steers, but I haven't gone through that many drives. At 350,000 miles, I changed my drives from when I bought the truck brand new. And those came due this year. And then after that, it was DEF, phone and internet, DEF, then meals, then just miscellaneous expenses. And from there on down, it was like tags, $2,000 for tags, and then dues and subscriptions. And everything else on past that was just pretty much minuscule stuff, truck washes. You can see on there in truck washes and office supplies. I probably bought some ink for the printer over here, or the ink for the printer in the truck. But most of that stuff is pretty minuscule, like scales. I only had 57 bucks in scales. I don't never scale my truck. But yeah, so at the very bottom, I take that $61,540, and then I transpose that over to here under the spreadsheet, 61,540. You subtract that from to that. Basically you're taking the cents per mile, and you're taking the gross, dividing it by the miles, and it gives you the cents per mile. The net is taking how much I earned, divided by how many miles I made, and it's coming out to 72 cents a mile. And my cost of operation was at $1.66. So other than that, I mean, really, that's about all there is to this video. If you come up here in the spreadsheet, what I did last month, there's the last Amazon load that I did, that $8,137. Then after that, last month, I went from Columbia to Jacksonville, got 1,100. Went from Greenwood, then I deadheaded from Jacksonville back to the house, and then went from Greenwood to Ohio. Then picked the load up about not too far from there, went from Delaware, Ohio back to Jefferson, Georgia. And then I ended up with some more, 315 miles deadhead, because I deadheaded from Jefferson to the house, from the house to Greenwood. Then they told me the load wasn't ready till the next day, so I deadheaded back home another 70 miles. Then went back to Greenwood, so it's 70, 70, and 70. So it would have been only 170 miles after the deadhead home. But that's the thing. When I'm saying I made 72 cents a mile average, that's counting every bit of that deadhead. That's counting trips to the tire store to get tires changed when I go home. That's counting out of route, missed turns, anything that was included. That's not, because let's look at one more thing. I just wanted, just curious, what I made per paid mile. So if I just look at the loads that I booked, so you come up here to the top, and I'm going to hit equal. Well, I already know what I made at 203. So I'm just going to, I want to find out what I've netted. So we're going to take AutoSum, and we're going to take all the money, or all the, what this column right here is what Google says it is. So I'm going to come down here and take that column right there. We're going to scroll it all the way to the top. Those were all those Amazon loads, and then these single loads right here is before. So now I'm gonna go right to there and hit enter. So I did 67,900. You might as well just round it up to 68,000 miles. And then you'll hit equals that, divide that by that, hit enter. So you see I averaged $3 a mile on all miles that I've done. And so I lost roughly, let's see, equals that, subtract that. So I roughly lost 62 cents a mile in Deadhead on those miles. Now, you got to remember too, the reason my Deadhead was up so much is because I run out west. I'll take a load and go all the way out to California, and then I'll go back to Nevada, down to Arizona, back up to Utah, back down to Southern California, back to Utah, maybe get a load, maybe to Denver, because all the times I'm looking to book a load out of those areas when I'm out there in California and on the West Coast, because I'm always looking for a load to get me back home. And sometimes I might find a load paying $2.10, $2.12, $2.13 a mile to come back, but most of the time they're trying to pay like $1.30 to $1.50. So I end up usually getting a decent load to Denver, then I usually deadhead down to Dallas or Kansas City or St. Louis before I get another load that's back on the books. So I got all those deadhead miles. Last January, you got to remember, I hit the road hard last year. I came out right after January, booked a load, went to North Dakota, and I was hoping to go from and just really do good. I took a good paying load up there, got a really good load from North Dakota back down to Iowa, but then I caught pneumonia on the way up there. Then I think I took 3 days off or 4 days off up there in Iowa. I keep saying Idaho, Iowa. But then ended up deadhead after I took a weekend off at the hotel. I was running a fever, 102, 103 degrees. Ended up deadheading from Iowa all the way back to the house. I had that in there. Several times I've taken loads down to Miami. I get like $3,000 to go to Miami, which pays me enough. That's enough from where I'm at, because I might have to go to Spartanburg or Columbia or around the Athens area, and I'll pick a load up. But I always quote it. I quote it down there at like $250, $260 a mile, and then I add another $800-900 to it to get me back to Savannah. Of course, by the time I get to Savannah, it's usually late in the afternoon, and I'm only 120, 30 more miles back to the house, and I just usually go back to the house and just start over fresh, on the next load. And of course, there's hardly ever anything coming out of Augusta. It seems like every time somebody calls me to go pick a load up, I end up going to Spartanburg, close to Atlanta, Savannah, Charleston. I'll get a load every now and then close to the house, but most of the time it's usually about another 100, 120 miles. So usually whenever I come home, I'm usually deadheading from Charlotte or Atlanta or Jacksonville or somewhere like that to the house. And then when I leave out, it's a big deadhead to go get the next load. So there's a lot of that in there too. But if you look at also one more thing, I think I already looked at it. I pulled up my number of work days last year. I think it was 232 days. So I'm just curious. Let's look at one more thing up here. If you take equals, you take how much my expenses were, which was 142,000, and we'll divide that by, let's see, equals that, divide that by 232. So there we go, $612. It falls right back in that range that I'm always talking about. You need to know how much it's costing you per mile to operate. We already know it's costing me roughly $1.66 a mile. So when somebody calls me up and they got a decent load, I need to be at least $2.40. That's where that $2.40 a mile comes in. That's the very, very bottom that I really want to run a load for. It's $2.40 a mile. Another thing is when somebody calls me up with a little like, so man, I got this little run that's like it's only 180 miles or 180 miles or 280 miles. I say, well, what is it? I'm already looking at, most of the time they call you like that. I'm already in the truck. It's already like 10:30 in the morning. I still got a deadhead, probably 50, 40, 30, 60, 120 miles to go get the thing. So you can add that to it. That's why I don't like doing those little 600-mile runs, because it's costing me on average $612 a day, because I don't count the days I don't operate. And typically I usually average my cost when I do like the whole 10 years. I break my average number of days down to 240 days a year, just to kind of ballpark it. But I've already got somebody had asked me one time on another commenter said, I forgot what he asked, what I was going to say now. Oh yeah, I remember what I was going to say. The other commenter asked me, he says, do you set aside money for maintenance? Do you put money aside for maintenance? And the answer to that is no, I don't. And the reason I don't is because my last truck, I had to rebuild the motor in it. I've got maintenance from 2013 and to current. All of that's included in that $1.66 a mile. So back in 2016, when I had the old truck and I had tons of trouble with the DPF system and I ended up having to delete it, ended up having to replace the head, ended up replacing the bearings, the liners, just tons of work on that truck year after year after year. That truck was a nightmare. Like this truck has been a problem with the trailer. In 2016, I had from 2016, about, I think, one cost was 12 grand that year. That was replace the head because Cummins misdiagnosed it. Then I had to take it to Kenworth. They replaced the liners in it. Then, and they also, later on, that work had some, it was that, I'll just give you a quick rundown. It was 12 grand for the head, $24,000 for the liners and some other miscellaneous work. I think we did the rollers and the cam. Then later on, the turbo went out along with the actuators, another $12,000. All this happened in like 6 months. Then I ended up taking the truck and getting it deleted. The next year, I had those ceramic plungers in the fuel pump. Those things came apart and got ceramic metal all up in my motor. So I had to take the motor down apart. We had to take the oil pan off, had to take the head off of it, flush it out, had to replace the oil cooler and all of that stuff up in there because there was just so many metal shavings in there. We tried to get them all out. And then at the very end, that guy who was supposed to delete the truck, I went back to go pick the truck up from him and I said, when y'all deleted this thing, how did y'all delete it? Did y'all take the ceramic filters out or did you leave them in there? Oh, no, we take them out. He pointed to a 55-gallon drum and said, you see that drum over there? It's full. That's your canisters on top. We take them out. So over the next 4 years, from 2016 to 21, when I bought this truck, the thing started leaking oil, started getting blow by, just problem after problem after problem. The fuel mileage was getting worse and worse. Man, the thing just got worse. I ended up taking it to my mechanic over here. We took all the seals on the front of that truck off. We changed the clutch. We changed the rear seals. I put a new fifth wheel on it. Just before I got rid of it, I think I put another $18,000 into that truck that year. And then I ended up still having to put another $20,000 deposit on this truck and buy this truck because after I got it back from him, I took it out west, coming back over Mont Eagle, coming back home. The thing it just started running like crap. And then eventually after it, I thought it was the actuators, what I actually thought it was. I thought the actuator was going back out on it. And I ended up calling the dealership here in Atlanta and I asked them, I said, do y'all have any 680s? That's what I was looking for. I didn't even want a W900. I said, do y'all have any 680s? They said, nope, sir. They said, we are completely out of 680s. If you want one, you got to get on a list. It's going to be at least a year before you can get one. And I was like, wow. He said, but hold on a minute. He goes, I think we got a couple of W9s that hit the lot. And I said, well, how much are they? And they quoted me $187. So I ended up putting $20,000 down and I ended up buying that W900. I really wanted a 680, an automatic, because I've never had an automatic. I think they've come along with them enough now, but at the time they didn't have any. And that truck was giving me so much problems. I was spending so much money on it year after year after year on maintenance that I ended up I just had to cut my losses with that one. And that's how I ended up with that W9 that I got now. And that's why I got a W9. And because I was looking to go buy one, it's because that's all they had in stock. And yeah, that was that. So back to the question, that's the long version of, do I set aside money for maintenance? And the answer is no, because I've had so much maintenance in the past that my cost of operation, including all of that, puts me at that $1.66 a mile where I'm at right now for the long term since I've had my truck. And it seems to be falling in that, even with this truck payment. Now it may drop a little bit. You can add the $36,000 back in there, but then the truck has just turned over 400,000 miles, and that's probably fixing to creep back up on the maintenance. I'm gonna start having to start putting a little bit of work on this truck. So far, knock on wood, I haven't had any problems other than that one dozer valve going out on it. What I was getting at is it's $612, $12 a day. So if somebody wants me to run one of those little short miles, I end up having to add another $250, $300 for me for the day. And that's the very minimal. That's why I need at least $900 to $1,000. If I'm not, I'm just spinning my wheels. And if you take the cost of fuel out of that, let's see, my cost of operation without fuel. Let's look at that. So last year I spent $48,200 in fuel. So we'll come over here, take that same number and hit equals. We're going to take the cost of operation was $142,000 for the year. So I did 142 for the year, so equals that. Subtract 48,200. So there we go. Yeah, 93,000. I must have been looking at that wrong. I don't have these columns set up. We'll set that up into currency. There we go. Makes it a little easier on the eyes. So I did 142,000, and then you got 93,000. So now you take that number, divide that equals that, divide that by the 234 days. Right there, boom, $400. So again, when somebody tells me a layover, or you sit there all day long and a broker wants to pay that $250 layover, that detention, they say, oh, we'll give you after 2 hours. That's why I get pissed off about it, because it's costing me on average without fuel, just sitting per day on the road, $400 without fuel. So that's why I always push brokers for a layover of $650, $680, because I'm only going to do $200. To me, the broker's only paying me $280. The $250 doesn't even cover my cost of operation for the day of what it cost me on average for the 243 days that I worked. So anyway, I just wanted to break this down into my yearly numbers, and hope that helps anybody. If you do, give a thumbs up. Talk to you guys later.